So let's look at criterion A, focus and method. Again, if we scroll to the top here, there's 6 marks here, okay? And focus and method, as always, when you guys look at the rubric for anything, focus on the top mark band. Where are the most points? I actually don't like the way that this was laid out. Whoever made this did a really good job. But in my view, you always want the top score at the top because that should be the first thing that people look at. But anyway, what we're being graded on here, or you're being graded on, is identification and explanation of the research topic is effectively communicated. The purpose and focus of the research is clear and appropriate. So you need to explain what is the research topic and why are you researching it. You want to write it in a way to try to avoid using first person, but you need to get those ideas across. Research question is clearly stated and focused, right? Make sure that the research, it's very clear. There's no confusion on it. You want to have that, unmistakable. You may want to just simply put it in bold so it just pops out to the examiner and helps them focus in on it. Methodology of the research is complete. Appropriate range of relevant and or methods have been applied in relation to the topic and research question, and there's evidence of effective and informed selection of sources and or methods. So for history, this means, right, you want a range of different types of sources. You want primary, you want secondary, and even within there, the more variety that you have, the better. You definitely need to have double digits in your sources. You don't want a history EE where you have 4 sources cited. That doesn't show good research. There's a lot of information that you will have missed. So you want to be hitting in the 10+ range. Doesn't mean that every single source you're going to use extensively in your research writing. Obviously, there's going to be a few that are going to be your main sources of information, but we want to make sure we have good variety and quite a few. So questions you may want to ask yourself as you go through. I'm going to kind of just skim over some of these and really focus in on a few here. First, does the essay meet the requirements for the subject which you're registering it? So for history, right, you can't break the 10-year rule, right? It's got to be older than that. And we need to make sure that what you're asking really is a history question and doesn't start to delve too much into another subject area. Is your research stated as a question? Have you explained how your research question relates to the subject that you selected for the EE? Insight into why your area of study is important, right? That goes back to why did you pick it? Why does it matter? Is the research question feasible within the scope of the test? This is where the feedback from myself or Mr. Pathak or Ms. Arambide or Mr. Stanley, etc., will probably help guide you guys, but it's important that you have an appropriate question for the length of the EE. Do you refer to the research question throughout the essay? Like the history IA, you need to make sure the essence of what you're writing continually is answering the research question. If what you're writing doesn't answer the question, then you either need a new question or you need to restructure your writing. Explain why you selected your methodology. Are there other possible methods that could be used or applied to your research? How might this explain the direction of the research? Any references in the bibliography that were not directly cited in the text. If you're putting something in the bibliography, you should have a citation for it somewhere in the research paper. Otherwise, it just looks like you added a bunch of stuff in the bibliography to kind of beef it up, but there's no evidence that you actually use those sources. All right, so if we scroll down here, move on to section B, knowledge and understanding. Selection of source materials is clearly relevant and appropriate to the research question. Did you pick sources that fit the question? Knowledge of the topic issue is clear and coherent, and sources are used effectively and with understanding, right? So between using a source and using it effectively. So in this case, you want to be sure that you're pulling out information that actually answers the research question. And also use of terminology and concepts is good. For whatever you're writing about, there's probably going to be key terms, key people, things like this that you should be using in your writing as well. The questions here, most of this is stuff that I've already talked about previously, so you guys can look at those